Hi guys, it's Kelly Latevola here and I'm back with another video for Neat and Tangled. Today we are using some products from the new May 2018 release. This is Complementary Color and then the Dimensional Triangle Stencil. There's also a cover plate. Both are super cool. I really wanted to kind of play off that complementary color idea. I'm close to it. You'll see as we get there. So I thought that it would be kind of fun to have each one of them on a background that was complementary colors. So I used some Post-it note masking tape. Mine's 2-inch, so I just cut it in half in my paper trimmer, 1-inch strips, and then I masked off the top and the bottom. I'm now trying to find the center of my card, and I'm just using a T-square ruler for that, so that I can draw a line and I know where to put the masking paper once I get the stencil on. So originally I picked out Carved Pumpkin, picked Raspberry, and Mermaid Lagoon to do my complementary colors. When you look, complementary colors are on the color wheel. They're directly across from each other. So a blue-green, i.e. a teal, across from that is a red-orange. But I took some liberties because I wanted the pink. I really just like the coral color that it makes. So I originally went in pretty heavy with the Mermaid Lagoon. And I didn't realize when I went in that heavy how blue it would be. So once I put this on, I actually rummaged through my oxides and picked out the peacock feathers. And then I just blended that in from the left-hand side so that it would just have a little bit more of a teal feel. Once that's done, I'm going to flip that masking paper in the middle, and then I'm going to do the other side. If I had to do it over again, I would have been lighter handed with the Mermaid Lagoon toward the edge. That's what I did with the picked Raspberry. I wasn't as heavy toward the right, and it really helped kind of that Carved Pumpkin shine through, so it looked more like a gradient, which I liked a lot better, but decisions were made. It was what it was. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to remove that mask. I also, because you know I'm all about the interest, I flicked on just some clean clear water. I'm using a number 2 round brush because I want the spatter to be fine. You should know if you're going to try this with a stencil, even if anytime you're using water, if you want a really, really clean look, this probably isn't the technique to do, because if a water droplet, or if you have a large water droplet that happens to drop like right next to the line of your stencil, it could make it bleed. And so then that clean look's kind of ruined. I also spattered on some Perfect Pearls because I love me some shine. And then I'm going to go ahead and remove the masks. For my stencils, I always put Tombow Mono multi-glue on the back of them because it's repositionable and then I don't have to worry about it moving and don't have to tape it down. But sometimes it leaves stickies behind. I just go in with a white eraser to get rid of those. You want to make sure that though that your background is dry, especially if you've done what I've done with the water spatters, because if your paper is wet, you can tear it and then that would be a tragedy. So I'm stamping these in Intense Black ink from Simon Says Stamp, this cute little boy and little girl, and I'm doing that because I'm going to color with Copics. This is probably no surprise to you. I love my Copic markers. So here I've picked just kind of some skin tones. I'm going to do the coloring for both of them at the same time. I had recently shared on Instagram where I was kind of practicing coloring them with colored pencils, and I wanted to see if I could do a no-line look. I did. And I was actually relatively happy with the results, so I think we're going to revisit that maybe in a video later this month, because I don't usually color people with no line. That makes me very scared, very, very frightened. But while I was doing it, I'll tell you that story in a minute. So basically the shading is, I'm doing the shading as if my light point, what am I even saying? Guys, help me get it together. My light source is in the center. So I want them, they're going to be looking at each other, and I want the focus to be the lighter points of where kind of like their faces are meeting each other. So I'm doing the shadows from the right-hand side on her, the left-hand side on him. And this color combination does look a little bit dark when you're going through it, but it does really lighten up as you build up those colors, because I start with my lightest, work out to my darkest, go from my darkest back out to my lightest. Putting those lighter colors over the darker portions really does lift up that color and kind of just even everything out. Plus, you always have to remember, I typically start with my skin tones and then go to my hair. But you have to remember when you're coloring, there's no other color on this to compare it to. So it's going to look pretty dark just because there isn't anything else to kind of take away from that. As we add in more of the colors, that skin tone will start to look lighter. I'm using an R20 to give them a little bit of blush on their cheeks because clearly they're a loving little couple who's maybe, you know, kind of cute together and still new in their relationship. That's how I picture it. Anyway, so when my son likes to go outside, he has a swing set in the back and a really cool sandbox that my husband built that has like benches built into it. But anyway, so he likes to hang out in the backyard, which is great, except for now that most of the cards that I make have videos with them, I can't actually shoot video in the backyard. Let's talk about their hair very briefly. So I'm using the tip of the marker and just some very light flicking motions, especially for hair. You want to try to practice doing that flicking because it's going to help create some strands of hair, which is going to help it look a little bit more realistic. When I picked the color combination, I picked it knowing that for hers, I was going to go a little bit lighter. So I'm only going to add that E59 to his hair. The darkest part is going to be where his part is. And then for her, because of the way that her hair is drawn, her bangs like swoop over her forehead. So I did give her just a little bit of a part in the back, but not much, because I didn't want it to look strange with her bangs swooping down in the front and then this part in the back. So anywho, I do still like enjoy creating and doing those things. And so while my son is swinging and playing in his sandbox, I typically take some craft items outside. But I have this problem. I have full set syndrome. I have to have all the things. I like having options. When I pack, I went out of town a couple of weekends ago and I was only going to be out of town for 4 days. And I'm pretty sure I packed enough clothes to survive me about a month. I mean, honestly, I just like having the options. So by the time like my peanut is ready, like we go outside, I've packed up all of the things. I think this last time I took out my Copics, I took out like 3 or 4 different stamp sets. I took out my Misty. I took out some colored pencils because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so I figured I'll just make a decision while I'm out there. And I did, but he always is ready to come back in before I'm done. So look, I've taken all of these items out there and then he'll like swing on the swing for like, I don't know, 30 minutes. And he'll be like, yeah, I'm ready to go in. And I'm like, but okay, you go in. I'll just be out here on the deck doing the coloring because I don't want to drag all this stuff back in the house. So maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm the only one who has the problem of liking to have a whole bunch of options. For the highlight on their little paint tubes, up at the top, the one that's drawn kind of like at an angle where the tube meets the cap, I very specifically drew myself a triangle so that I would have a highlight reserved. It's a smaller area and I didn't want my flicking to, I guess, get in the way of that. I did hers the same way. I just put the highlight on the opposite side. I'm going to give her cute little white boots to go with her skirt. And even though I'm coloring them white, there's still going to be some shading. So basically up from the top of her toe, like behind it, that would be darker. And then at the bottom of the toe would be darker. I'm also coloring her little belt or border on her skirt white and his t-shirt, the little collar on his t-shirt. For his shoes, I'm going to do them the same way I did hers. So I'm just adding basically the darker color at the bottom, leaving the top as my highlight. But I wanted his to be more gray or black. So I'm going to bring in a C7 for that. Just go right on top and blend all of that out. So, yeah, so when I was thinking about like this little couple, when I was picking the colors, I thought it would be really cute if like she was holding his color and he was holding her color. Kind of like they were, like almost like giving each other a gift. Like, hey, I had this chance to go buy this paint and the one that I wanted to buy you is the one that you wanted, not the one that I wanted. Which made me think of this story that the pastor told at my wedding. Basically, he was talking about this couple that had been married a long time. They'd been married for like 50 years. We're celebrating their wedding anniversary. And so in the morning, they would make breakfast and he would give her the end of the bread, like the very end, the heel of the bread. And So they would make toast, whatever, and he would always give her the heel. And every day she was like, oh, the heel again. Again. I do not want the heel of this bread. And so finally, after they've been married for 50 years, she says to him, like, enough is enough. Why do you keep giving me the heel? I don't want the heel of this bread. And he says, well, I give you the heel because it's my favorite part. Which just kind of like puts things in perspective. Like when somebody is, doing something for you, and it might be something that you don't necessarily think is, a kind. Like I'm sure in her head, she was like, this dude doesn't want the heel of this bread. And so because he doesn't want it, he gives it to me. But because like their lack of communication, she didn't realize that he was actually giving her the part that he wanted the most. And so he was making that sacrifice for her, which I think is super cute. And I think it's really easy to forget in, regular everyday relationships. Not to get like super heady in this little coloring video, but it just made me think of that story, which then also made me think of The Gift of the Magi, which I read it a long time ago, but very briefly, basically it is a husband and a wife, and they want to buy each other Christmas gifts, and she wants to get him a chain for his watch, and she has this beautiful long hair. Like I said, it's been a while since I read it, but I think this is how it goes. She has this beautiful long hair, and so he wants to buy her these beautiful hair combs to put in her hair, and so she cuts her hair and sells it to buy him a chain for his watch, and he sells his watch to buy her these combs for her hair. So again, that's like just, it's very, very sweet. There's a little bit of a lack of communication. So these little couples, I just pictured it as them being like, hey, I could have bought any paint, but I bought your favorite color instead of mine. Because of the sentiment, you're my complementary color is just very cute. So I colored his pink, and again, I just kept that same highlight. And then for hers, I picked a blue combination so that, again, they would have each other's favorite colors. And then I wanted their shirt colors to be like their favorite color, but I wanted it to be slightly different just so everything wasn't so monotone. And then I have to tell you, I typically color as if my light source is in the top right-hand corner. And doing this, doing the shading so that it was totally like the light was center focused was a little bit of a struggle for me, because I wanted to put the highlight on the top of his arm. And when I did hers, I really, really struggled because I totally wanted to put the highlight on the top of her arm. But that's just not the light source I was going for, and I was trying to break out a little bit. So for his chest is going to be darker because he's got the paint in front of it. He's got his arm in front of it, holding it. Same thing for hers. In order to switch up his color a little bit, I use the same blues that I used for her paint label, but I'm just going to cover that with BG45, which will make it just a little bit more teal so that it kind of matches that background a little bit more. I'm going to use the same kind of trick for hers. So doing all the coloring with that highlight on the bottom of her arm, which just makes me want to cry. Like, you just know what you know, right? Like, you do the same things, and then when you try to break out of that box, sometimes it's a little bit uncomfortable. This one was really uncomfortable for me. So putting that on, and then for hers, because I had already used that carved pumpkin in the background, once I'm done with her coloring, I'm actually going to cover the whole thing with a Y38, and this works because Copics are transparent, and you can build colors on top of each other. So hers is just slightly more orange. I can't leave anything alone when it comes to detail work. If you've watched any of my videos, you know this is an absolute fact. So I gave him a little stripe on his shirt, and I gave her a little polka dot on hers. Also that pleated jean skirt, super cute. I would still totally wear that. I'm a grown woman. And then I like to outline all of my images. So I'm doing that with an EK Success journaling pen. I just feel like it makes those colors pop, gives me really clean lines. Once I'm done with all of the outlining, I'm going to go ahead and use the dies for this same set, the matching dies. I'm going to put those down and then run them through my Big Shot. So what I found after, when I was messing around with the actual card design, was that 1-inch border that I created was far too large. It was just too much. It was just too much white. And so what I decided to do was trim it off so that it was like 3/4 of an inch. and then I'm going to put it on black cardstock. So I'm going to pop these up, again, just looking to, you know, kind of add that interest into the background. I'm going to pop up both of the strips on the top and the bottom. And then I'm going to cover the whole background that we created with this foam tape. And when I put it on, I'll have a border of black and white at the top, but there'll be a height difference because, you know, the white pieces parts are on foam. Then I'm going to put even more foam on it because apparently I just can't get enough of this on my little characters here so that they're popped up above their backgrounds. So just putting those on. And because these are, they're not, I guess, intricate cutouts, it's really easy to just get the foam on there. I love intricate ones. I think that they are beautiful, but I hate cutting all the little teeny tiny pieces of foam. Just drives me mad. I did, which I didn't show, I apologize, I guess I forgot to turn on my camera. I did heat emboss the sentiment on black cardstock in white that says "You are my complimentary color," and I just cut that out in a little square, and I'm going to put that down more towards the bottom right in order to kind of tie everything together and accent that the sentiment part of it, like the sentiment block, I guess. I'm going to use some clear sequins from the clear sequin mix from Neat and Tangled, put those down with Tombow multi-glue, and then filled them in with glossy accents. And then I just added a little bit of sparkle to each one of their paint labels. And that's the whole card. So that was kind of just a menagerie of topics to discuss, but nonetheless, super cute card. And I hope that you'll maybe try one of the things that you saw here, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Bye.